everybody, and welcome to week 4 of NECC. My name is Ovi, and I'm joined by the amazing Falsable to bring you some Division 1 action. Group B between Fisher Tea Party and Cumberland Destiny. Paul, how are you feeling? We don't get to cast together normally. This is fun.
I know. I've been able to cast with everybody. I'm running the gauntlet here. Next week, we will have Sam back in, and then we'll do Vincent again. But I'm super excited. We're running back straight to, not only back to Division 1 Val, but back to Group B as well. Last week's game was so nice. We just had to give it another go. I'm hoping we get another banger of a series here. It should be a good series. I think we're in for a fun one.
No, I completely agree. Both of these teams have kind of had bumpy starts, to the group stages, and I think, based on the performances they've had against other high-tier teams, I think it's going to be fairly close as well. But let's go ahead and take a look at those competitors. For our first school up, we got Fisher Tea Party with Javi, Reese, Bad Mueda, and Kim Lord. And for Cumberland, we got J. Chronic, John, Morg, Case, and Gerardo.
I mean, we saw Cumberland last week. They nearly pushed it to a third and final map versus Akron. And Fisher have been doing excellent on the side. We haven't gotten to see them on broadcast yet this semester, but as a couple of players we're really familiar with. I mean, Bad, Ken Lord, yeah, it's going to be very nice to see them. Both these teams sitting at 1 and 2, but I think it's a deceiving 1 and 2 because both these teams have losses only to TAMU and Akron. That's it. Both of them have lost to those teams exactly. And then Fisher even was able to beat Indiana Hoosiers last week, which is a very impressive win. They were undefeated until Fisher came along. So I think both these teams, while they've had a hard start to their spring season, it's because they've been playing really good teams.
Yeah, and so maybe after this kind of last major, caress, it'll be just careening down, hopefully, to round out your record and keep it strong. So you do want this win here today. So let's go ahead and take a look at those map picks and fans to see where we are duking it out, because I think it's going to tell a lot about what we might get to see here today, Paul.
Yeah, no surprises in our first map, at the very least. Lotus picked by Fisher. It's a map they've had a lot of success with. It was a map they nearly beat both TAMU and Akron on, so also it's collegiate. Collegiate teams love Lotus. Haven is a little bit of a toss-up here for Cumberland. Not completely odd. They've played it once so far this semester against UGA Black. It went very well for them, and I think after last week where they played their two of their most comfortable maps, both Lotus and Fracture, and lost them both, it makes sense for them to reevaluate their strategy a little bit and prioritize something else in their comfortable picks.
And to put it bluntly as well, these two teams have massive overlaps in their pools, which results in Lotus and Fracture. So if you pick into Fracture, you're also picking into a strong and maybe even spicy composition from the Fisher side.
I'm a little sad we're not going to see it.
Yeah, but it's just that they are the ones that then banded out after the success they found on that map, right? Against the Hoosiers last week, right? But then again, like we said, they're maybe having an identity crisis there, and that's why they want to put it off for another week, keep it in the dark about what they might be cooking up in the lab. So Pearl, neither team has played if we make it all the way in this best of 3, but Lotus, Paul, you were going crazy about, again, the Fisher identity crisis in terms of their compositions. Tell me a little bit about
Fisher has played this map 3 times, and the only tidbit of consistency has been Breach and Raise. Makes sense. Staple for the map. Pretty much everybody's going to be playing Breach and Raise on Lotus, right? Cumberland as well. They've also got that rolling. But otherwise, Fisher have been throwing darts at the board and seeing what sticks. They've tried Omen, Tejo, Neon, Vice, Jet, Clove, Yoru. Almost everything under the sun at this point. So there's truly no predicting what Fisher is going to be doing on this very first map, other than the Breach and the Raise. And even then, maybe it's just the first time that they'll change that up too. Who knows?
And Loki, I wouldn't be surprised if they have another new 4th composition, to be honest. And we were trying to dive into why are they having so many compositions, so many iterations, and it's because they have this unique player of Bad who is this aggressive sentinel or secondary duelist kind of player alongside Menace. So they're trying to figure out how they fit in. Last week they had them on the Breach after playing, like I said, a Chamber, a Deadlock, your secondary duelist. And so I'm curious then, if I had to choose a 4th composition for Lotus, do you think they put Bad back on the Chamber?
Chamber on Lotus, I'm not a huge fan of. I think it's what angles he can play from are very predictable. I was actually listening, I think it was Sliggy on Plat Chat was talking about it after NA or something. And he was like, yeah, Split and Lotus not really playable for Chamber, at least right now. I actually wouldn't be very surprised if we see them run back the comp they had success with last week. I think the Yoru is a really nice partner to the Raze right now. It allows Menace on the Raze to take a lot of space, and Yoru to sort of be that precision duelist of deciding exactly what space is pushed rather than just, okay, we have it now, which is sort of what the Raze does.
I mean, I wouldn't even necessarily like slot them in there as a requirement. They could also just be your trickster, right? Like
that too. You could always just get funky with it.
I feel like setting up rotations and reticks, especially on that defensive side, is super important. So if you have like a fake gate crash every 30 seconds, then you have to keep a player maybe posted up over towards a little bit later, and so that timeline's going to be a lot more constrained, I would say, on the defense, which is nice.
I also think the Yoru is very interesting. Considering that a lot of teams with the Teo coming into the meta so heavily, Teo is a good initiator, has some ability to get information with the drone, right? But it's not a Sova, it's not a Sky, it's not a Fade, which once upon a time, they've all seen some sort of rotation here on Lotus because it's a really big map. You need information gain, and Yoru does well to trick a few of those teams that aren't able to play the information game so much because they've lost some of those more heavily information initiators in favor of the Teo.
Well, guess what? Cumberland is one of those teams. We talked a lot about Fisher and their composition, but Cumberland's playing like the stock standard, like new meta comp to go to right now. Omen, Tejo, Raze, Vice, and Breach. And I think, again, that reasoning is kind of because also the Tejo, right? The Vice utility a little bit harder to destroy. Like, yes, your Thorns, your Razor Vines are still going to go down, but that wall stays intact. You still got a trap to play off of. But aside from that, I think our big question mark is just Fisher going into this, right? Like, and it's so interesting.
And because we saw Cumberland last week, I have a little bit more specific question marks for them because I've actually seen footage on their gameplay for Lotus, right? Because last week, I think Cumberland did a really good job of punishing rounds where they played against Akron, and Akron kind of floated in limbo a little bit, but Cumberland struggled a little bit in that mirror matchup to put their own foot forward first, to have their own ideas, to not rely on mistakes to capitalize on and instead try to force errors. We get yet another new variation here for Fisher as well. The Yoru stays, not so much the Breach.
And I'm trying to figure out what this is meaning in the grand scheme. To me, it's screaming plant security, right? Like, you don't need the double flashes necessarily, right? You have your own flash with the Yoru, the Gecko supplements it, and you're good to go. But look, it's speaking of good to go, a heavy flight off the rip outside of Mound, and Fisher Tea Party was expecting it. They play off, wait for the paranoia to subside, and while in the meantime, Cumberland's trying to weigh the scales back into their favor with additional pressure outside of Pillar, and it's kind of succeeded now, back onto a 3-on-3, but it's going to be more anchoring the site and falling as a result. Really
nice read from Fisher. I'm pretty sure that was the exact pistol Cumberland played on their defense last week. Now player advantage. A little low. Not feeling too good about this one. Does jiggle for the info with so little health too. And I mean, it's really hard to fish these defenders out of here. Bad is in a prime spot, and he's got both of them. No assistance necessary.
And that is why they kept Bad on the Yoru for sure here. Again, like, yes, you don't have any like mollies or any firm utility to get players off the spike, but again, mind games, trickery, clones, you name it, they're gonna have you spinning your head around. And nice little two-piece. I think, again, Fisher, you talked about Cumberland, like, that was their defensive strat. Well, Fisher did a good job adjusting to it. So off to a right start, off to a right buy as well. Really heavy here, actually.
Yeah, very heavy. And just like last week, Cumberland, for the first 2 rounds, this was the strat they ran. They lost the pistol and then ran the exact same thing on their eco rounds. And it's not going much better than it did last week.
I thought they were maybe going to set up instead for like a slower trap play with the revolving door. But you mentioned it, you've seen it. They went for for the follow through. The raise gets dropped immediately, and you saw the 2 players remaining disengaged for Cumberland. Reroute, they're like, we can't flank again. We just got to go for the stock standard retake side by side, hand in hand, till death do they part, and that's exactly what Bad is gonna do. I mean, that's Dimensional Drift Online already here, Paul.
That's nasty. That's unbelievable. I mean, this, especially with that heavy buy you were talking about, Joby, I mean, that turns this bonus round into a very real danger for Cumberland, because if there's even one pick, Bad just has to play a little bit slower, get a little bit of information. If there's even one pick, Fisher are going to commit to this. Bad is going to be a nightmare to try and deal with.
And I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Make it a trifecta heading towards the C site here yet again. And this is good because Cumberland's going now more towards, okay, we have weapons. Let's go back to a standard default defense. Take a main space over on Lotus.
Ooh.
Dimensional Drift triggered early. The gate crash in, just flushing out the Cypher, forcing them to play retake with their team. And I'm glad to see more finally disengaging. But speaking of engagement, Lurk player taking out the trade.
That's a great trade there. And oh, Fisher kind of want to play for a little bit more, but no, I mean, the Bucky's not going to lend itself to that. But they knew that's where the quick reinforcements were coming from, and it buys time for the push out into the defender spawn. I love this position, and the Bucky close there is so nasty too.
Now there's question marks raised. Your spy cam saw 1 player. Where are the rest for Fisher, especially when you take in the mound space on the side of Cumberland? So you've got to know they've taken CC space. Now you see more trying to re-clear it here, but it's too late, right? The players on side are holding their own. And I mean, I was going to say it is too late, but now Menace is just trying to play their life close with the Bucky, and Yoda not banged down enough to succumb to the pressure. Few should come in a nick of time.
Well navigated there by Cumberland. I'm really impressed with the way that they don't scream headlong into the post plant. They take their time, they figure things out, and they get that mound control that you talked about, which was super important. If you don't get mound control there, if you don't push out the door, recognizing that when you were able to get Moeda over in toward B, like that was their flank control in its entirety. So making use of that space, really nice from Cumberland.
I mean, not even that, just then using that coupled with the late retake spy cam, right? To recognize how many players were stacked into CT. And I mean, Fisher, that was a good move from their part, right? You see the Cypher retreating through Waterfall, that's empty space you can now occupy. But looks like, despite losing that round, we talked about it, it was the bonus, the buy-up comes through. They want to re-challenge the C site. Cumberland, though, now they have the Armageddon offline from Kyoto's Heroics. Now you've found, again, way to the Lurk player for a 2nd round in a row. So again, they're going to be playing a retake scenario down 2 players this time.
God. Hot Dog 63, that's more for anybody who might be wondering. One of the longest standing players on Cumberland. He's just so nasty with it. Here comes the Thrash. I mean, is it going to get broken? Morg with a 2nd! And, I mean, I believe it gets detained there. But it doesn't even matter. Cumberland are just going. I mean, all you have to do is get rid of Javik. Yeah, there he goes. Case destroys him. Nicely done by Cumberland. Again, another post plant. Really well navigated.
Yeah, I think the investment there of the Thrash is very fair, right? You knew you were navigating a numbers disadvantage. It took 1 player and kind of evened the playing field just a bit. But I think it was Bad who fell trying to peek off of the Thrash. And like you mentioned, more getting their 2nd kill, just holding their cool there is what kind of splintered that post-plant strategy and that approach. Otherwise, I think it would have gone a lot better for Fisher. But this round now, economy in shambles. 1 hero rifle from Moeda. Again, that's your solo Lurk player. Makes sense. They need to be able to fight on their own. And now what do you do, Plausible?
Well, you eco. First things first.
Where?
I'm waiting to see Fisher try something other than Mound. I mean, this is just an eco, you know, I'm not going to fault them for doing it here. An op for Morg, this is something he does. He has done this on Sentinel multiple times. It's a nice little wrench to throw in gears. But I'm a little bit worried about him being all alone. Okay, he gets the heck out of dodge. Morg's not going to die to that. Nicely done. And I mean, the plant comes through for Fisher, so at least there's some silver lining here, but it would be pretty miraculous to hold this down a player without guns against to potentially, yeah, the showstopper. Oh! Okay, Case. Unlucky.
Oh. And Camlor playing for the gamble. No corner just getting cleared, but this point in the smoke. Avi was trying to pull a fast one like Tens, and it just doesn't work out in their favor. But like you mentioned, Paul, I think this is a good win for Fisher, right? They got the showstopper out. They got the spike plant down. I'd mark that as a pretty good eco round.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. It's good for their long-term plan, but now here comes the real meat of it, right? You're getting into the gun round. We're on round number 6 as well, and Fisher have only thus far picked up their pistol in the anti-eco. Early days, of course. But I need to see something other than C. We need to see them fight for this mound control. It's worth noting, too, Cumberland actually didn't really like to fight much for mound control themselves. Or at least they didn't get into many fights over at mound on their defense last week.
Well,
okay,
I mean,
they're just running it back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't need to fight mound if you have an op hold in the line, but, I mean, now the novelty factor is worn off. Unless you reposition and continue to fight when they thought you had left. Nope. Second shot goes awry. Again, it's probably going to be a full retake unless Gerado's able to stick it out and find their own here. But again, you fly too close to the sun and like if there's you will fall. So this is the first time Fisher's going to have an advantage, I think, going into the post plant.
And I like that Menace is coming back here to fight and is supported. I'd love to see a Dizzy go up over the top. Something a little bit more aggressive. Yeah, waiting for the Armageddon's dicey. Case managing to get Menace, and Muda is flushed out. Muda, finally the Dizzy comes out. That's a nice blind, but even still, Case good for another. Woo, dipping around the mound. Can't quite make it happen with the classic. But meanwhile, Bloodbath on the site leaves us in a 1v1. The time ticking away, though, and Bad's in a perfect spot.
The gate crash fake in the swing while they're checking to make sure it wasn't real. And I mean, I think for me, two things. One, we talked about Cumberland and the importance in the retake, in order to, you know, pull the players towards mound. But Wayna staying alive and fighting there off of the Armageddon was huge, right? Like, I think Menace, not much you do there. You had to take the fight. You're getting forced into the two players flanking. But overall, like, the Dizzy, they did a good job appeasing them, keeping them at bay, and whittling it down to that 1v1. So, nicely done here. And now, I mean, bro, like, Fisher's not going to give you your request, Paul.
Can we have a judge fight, at least? Can we at least have Menace land on Morg and it just be a judge fight? That would sate my appetite for something a little bit new. But no, Morg's gonna get spotted. He knows it's coming C too. You would have heard the boom bot. There's a dimensional drift. He holds the classic out though, so they don't know about the judge. It doesn't matter. Bad's got one of his own. Gerardo trying to trade, but how much is he gonna be able to do here? Hey, good for a second. That's pretty good, all things considered.
Oh, and I mean, they're going on for the ace at this point. Kyoto denies it. And is back to a 2-on-2. Still in the drone this late is huge as well. It doesn't seem like it's in a spot. Oh, it does spot both. Hamlord lifted their head, and now, I mean, Menace such low HP. Satchel Adams, plenty of time to work with. Satchel out.
Yes, nails it! Beautifully played. A positional masterclass there by Menace. Waiting until he knows that Kyoto's hand is going to be forced to fight him. Yes, the time was in Cumberland's favor, but that only lasts so long when you need to defuse the spike.
Yeah, when I saw Case coming satcheling out, I'm like, wait a minute, those are going to be satchels you can't use to get back up over the ledge to go for the defuse, and it didn't matter when both are just outright dropped by Menace, who, mind you, I think had like 20 HP that entire encounter, so winning it is huge here. And look at this, we might finally break the C streak. Nope, it's just Menace going on alert. Like, I mean, if you're up 4-3 and it's not failing, I mean, don't show any more your playbook than you have to, I guess. Oh, it's a fake out. And the stack as well from Cumberland, they set up a trap here with the Rolling Thunder. They were ready to fight Mound this round as soon as contact was made. So dodging a major bullet.
Unlucky for Cumberland. The one round they pivot, but here comes the Bucky. Nicely done. Javi gonna make sure that doesn't fall to the wayside there. And actually, there's a ton available here for Fisher. This is just a Bucky. There's no reason Menace shouldn't just go for the showstopper the second he hears anybody. A Bucky for one. Not quite going to be able to pull that second. Good spam from John. Get rid of that danger. Flank not going to work out so much either for Cumberland. Rolling Thunder available here, but I think you actually hold on to this. Unless Kyoto's able to get a second. Need to flush out Bad. Bad's a tough character to dislodge. Here comes Kyoto. There's the Rolling Thunder. They confirm they're all in tree, but they didn't know where Javi is. Beautiful around the corner, and he swings out for his 3-piece.
Yeah, when that TP happened in a tree, I'm like, bro, with this special delivery, there's no way they clear Javi. And then the Rolling Thunder on top of it, right? Hitting their teammate. Like, I think there was a major synergy there. That's why Cumberland is now taking this time out. Talked about how Kyoto is playing tonight for Jay Chronic. Well, they're still in the lobby. They're still getting those thoughts in. I mean, for good reason. That was a big ultimate going astray here.
Yeah.
And finally, when Fisher went towards another site, they still won it out. So the conditioning for Fisher working against Cumberland. They finally stacked the C site, and they set up a beautiful trap, and it's never sprung.
Yeah, very nicely done by Fisher. Now that we know they can go A, I'm very impressed with it. It was just a conscious decision rather than, you know, maybe a bit of a oopsie daisy, but doing very nice, Fisher. And that was, I mean, it was a cheap round for them, all things considered. They really didn't have to use much, just the thrash to make sure that round goes their way. The showstopper ended up inadvertently getting held because Menace gets caught. And they still got the Steel Garden, too. I mean, no wonder you take a timeout here. This is a tough round for Cumberland to go into.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Cumberland at this point, right, you just gotta be frustrated, right? Like, they were going C every single round for more than half of the first half, and finally, when your IGL makes the call around that tendency, they go towards the other side of the map. So it looks like they're going back to like the basics here, right? Like maximum spread, just get information and pivot off of it here. And I'm curious to see what that pivot's gonna be in the late round more than anything.
Oh, Gerardo getting dumpstered by Bad, though. I mean, surely you could go heavy C here, but the thing is, you don't even need to. Dimensional Drift picked up again for Bad. I think that's his third one of the half already. Oh, and he's just going for it. Okay, I don't so much know about that, but it does fully sell the fake. Unless Morg is able to do something here. No, he backs away. He just wants to play into the 3v3. But with a Showstopper and a Steel Garden, can you afford to do that?
And of all the players to push up and get aggressive here, it's your Echo as well. Sacrificial Lamb here off of the Showstopper. And with the Showstopper Rift as well. Secondary player falls, leaving it all to Menace in the 1v3. Talked about Cumberland, they're pacing on the retake. Well, they're doing it here yet again.
I'm surprised that Cumberland aren't going a little bit faster now, though, trying to bait the Showstopper out early. Oh, but now they spotted Menace. Oh, and the nade misses. That's tough. Even if you get this first, the defuse is just a guarantee. Ooh, okay, tag just head through the box, but just a tag ain't gonna be enough.
Yeah, I mean, it was planted for that position, not planted to wait for the box for a tree, but just difficult to navigate a 1v2 situation like that, and Cumberland finally are able to regain their footing, and I mean, they had to use a lot of ultimates to do so, right? The Showstopper, the Neural Theft, and I mean, Bad seemed like they were going to be putting a lot of chaos into the spread of players, but when Bad falls and there's no follow-up on the C site, that's when they were surefire going for the rotate. That was kind of like mid Neural Theft investment, so they still didn't have confirmation, but regardless, it gave Cumberland resources they need to regroup and go for a cohesive retake here. But now, I think they're speeding up the exec.
Javi just sticks it. He's in on C. Oh, and Maida getting 2! What are the hopes for Cumberland in this round? Even getting away from the fault line. Swinging for 3? No, not quite. John actually is going for the quick flank here. I think he'll be heard running around, though. You can see Cam Lloyd is watching for it. He's tucked himself into this corner. I don't think John is going to clear this.
Oh, yeah, they for sure hear it. Now Bad might be baiting for them, making sure they would get the trade regardless, and now, down to the 2v3. You know your Cypher's waterfall. Gerado's still in the wind for now.
Odin for Morg as well. Makes it a little bit tricky when you actually need to take gunfights. It's great for spam through these walls, but unless you can confirm where people are playing, well, Menace ducks out for you. Yeah, it's just impossible to win a 1v3 with a gun like that.
And I'm curious, we talked about Javi and how, like, they're from the shadows, you know, sticking it was a little gutsy. And I'm curious if it was because they didn't see any Cypher util, they didn't see that common, like, closer angle that Morg has been holding. So they were like, okay, gamble. They're overall towards A here yet again. We stick it, we go for the fast speed up there. And one thing else to point out, right? Moeda has been insane the last 2 rounds with the opening kills, right? Last round they got Kyoto alone. This round they got Kyoto and Case. So that's a major difference as well from the first few rounds Cumberland was able to find, where they were consistently first blooding Moeda. So this is a really, really nice difference. And speaking of differences, are we finally gonna get an A, bro?
Here on the Cumberland Eco, finally we get not even really an A brawl, a shot off the bow.
You don't have to fight it, you don't.
And Fisher just right back to what works. If it ain't broke, there's some trick about deciding not to fix it. Unlucky timing there for Dorado. Tries to sneak past both the wingman and the boombot. Hard to tiptoe around 2. And it's even harder to tiptoe around 4, believe it or not, Morg.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were just gambling, hoping they could get the timing, thinking that the clone wasn't going to get re-cleared. Speaking of re-clears, push into CT
Okay.
John. He's going to collect a weapon upgrade here with 30 HP. Don't make the same mistake of hastily investing your Rolling Thunder. You don't need it right now in a 2v4 with low HP. Maybe if you get 1 or 2 more, and that's not going to come true. Kyoto in the 1v4 with a Bucky.
I think if Kyoto has a gun and maybe they had some like confirmed damage on some players there, maybe they go for like, because they had both the Armageddon and the Rolling Thunder, but yeah, you're just gonna die here. Not much you can do. Not with a Bucky. Fisher already off to a roaring attack. Could get themselves as good as an 8-4. Still have the Thrash in their pocket too.
I don't know what the score was when you casted Lotus for Cumberland last time, but it is refreshing for me personally to see a team up on the attack side for Lotus. And I know that sounds weird for a 3-side map. It feels like it goes against every fiber of your being, but it's been the truth of Lotus recently enough, which is so weird to say. So again, I'm glad to be back to Collegiate and possibly a Fisher Tea Party 8-4 here. But, like you mentioned, these ults that were held onto are going to have huge impact. I mean, when you're fighting head-on here, I hope they get the opportunity to live and use them.
Now we get an actual A brawl here in the final hours of the half. Javi TPing into his smoke, too. Chasing down John. Gets a tag, wants more. Nails the back of his head. Dorado doing good to trade, or at least stopping Moeda from getting that damage through B. It's not the first contact. Armageddon.
No way.
Just gonna stall here, honestly. I'm a little bit surprised Kyoto used that. Oh, and Javi's got such a monster flank. There's no way you expect him to wrap this quickly. Kyoto, there's no way you're looking for this. Oh, misses the first and second shots, but Kyoto takes enough damage. He's got a sprint on in. Menace didn't expect him to be up so quick. Hang on, hang on. The Thrash can't get him either. Menace, you really gonna knife this man?
I mean, at this point, right? The 2 of your players are super low HP. Wait a minute. No
Wait!
way.
Salvo's here too. Gotta pick up the rifle. There's plenty of time. A headshot and nothing else will suffice.
Got a drone, they got a special delivery. You just stun and take the fight? That would be my guess. And that's exactly what they go for, but it doesn't align. And the shots don't either. 8-4 half for Fisher Tea Party. After some trolling, they still pull out the win. And a substantial lead before the sides swap. Now, 8-4 is the minimum comeback, you know, I feel like, for attacks at a map like Lotus. But that round, we gotta give hats off to Javi, right? Like, they lived up to their name, right? Like, the speed from the exec chasing down Johnson, they couldn't use the Rolling Thunder was the big one. And then just keeping that space and that pressure, and maybe even felt like a miscomm, right? Like, you know they were probably pushing in a drop after chasing you down into it, and John just not getting the message across. And now, how do you mentally reset, Paul?
I mean, the good news is for Cumberland is they were able to mental reset from far worse scenarios last week. I remember them getting bonus and still coming back. So I'm not too terribly worried for Cumberland this early. This is also Fisher's map pick. So no surprises that Fisher would be comfortable on it. Quick on into B as well. Javi going for the timing. Vice wall isolates Case. Oh, and he's blind too. Still good for 1. Bad falls. Trade not bad at the end of the day, but you've got to get rid of Moeda. Oh, in such a good spot too. Dodges the paranoia. The timing excellent. There goes Kyoto. And almost good to lock down another, but at least lets Javi out onto the site. He's good for 3 already in this pistol. He's going for the knife now. He missed it on the last round, but he gets... Yeah, not gonna happen there, Javi. I appreciated the effort, though.
Oh, Fisher's having fun. And we're already seeing differences in defensive kind of philosophies as well, right? Like the Vice, the live by the side, die by the side, where versus Morg was like readily giving it up. And whether that's a credit to the player preference or just the agent, we'll have to wait and see. But aside from that, I think... Also, right, you weren't having your Cypher lurk, you had Case lurking, which is interesting because it's not even a double duelist composition, so definitely felt like maybe just a more chaotic pistol round from Cumberland, trying to figure out what they could like deposit, and Fisher was just having none of it. Buddy up system, get your trades, and you're good to go.
And Cumberland seemingly just fishing for information in these first couple of rounds. They all go B round 1. They're all going A round 2. They're hoping they can get some sort of tendency on maybe util in the early days. I mean, yeah, they're just going to get slaughtered here. It's a hard gun diff, hard util diff. But I think Cumberland haven't quite read into the fact of how dynamic Fisher have actually been playing. Yes, they ran C a whole ton of rounds, but it wasn't without purpose, and I think Fisher's going to have more defensive setups than Cumberland are prepared to pull out of them, especially considering they don't have much time.
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing from Fisher, you talked about this defensive playbook, it's all context-based information gathering, right? Like we talked about, okay, what a Tejo sacrifices in terms of information, but look at Fisher's comp, right? Like the only information you have is, I guess, like an arc rose flash saying target hit or a dizzy, you know, a target, but even then, like, it's nothing concrete like a drone would provide. And so they're just getting all that information. And also when Bad's fragging up a storm like this and already having a dimensional drift online in record pace like last half, that's going to be even more information to thrive off of.
It's crazy. I think, what, that's 4 in 14 rounds?
Something like that.
Absurd. Cumberland, now they have rifles. They have to play more reserved. This was also a problem Cumberland had last week, if I remember correctly. They struggled quite a bit on the pistols. And it led to some tough early days, especially, I mean, you throw Bad a Vandal. Now he was already 22-6 going into this round. Here comes the dimensional drift. Here comes the util. I can only imagine. Dizzy's nades? Nothing? Waiting for a full regroup, waiting for the rotates, boxing in Cumberland. They're actually just trying to shoot fish in a barrel, but it's a pretty big barrel, guys. I don't know.
I mean, it works, right? When you're on an anti-eco, group up, try to take the fights as soon as pressure, as soon as contact is made. Quick pivot to B is also a good sign, right? Like, you force them into a site that kind of favors these eco weapons, and you are all there ready to surround, ready to contain any pressure that Cumberland's about to attempt to fight into C-Link or fight into top mid. And the paranoia trades favor that of Cumberland ever so slightly. The numbers equate. Rado trying to step up, but it's just trade after trade. And
oh, Morg shuts it down. A bloody round for Cumberland, one where they get through by the skin of their teeth. That forced pivot into B, like you said, those low eco weapons thrive in that space. Even with, honestly, a gift from the heavens that Dorado was given, being able to get hit by the paranoia and just tuck into the corner. Get 2 from that and swing out for a 3rd. Even with that, it was narrow, it was close. And the economy for Cumberland is not looking snowballable, at least in the early days. An op coming out as well. We gotta be careful. The 3rd round op is so tricky.
Yeah.
I must wait a moment.
Another benefit, right, of this double duelist, if you even need it, right? Look, Bad's the one finding kills over towards the A site. And the Cypher lurk just neutralized. I mean, they've taken the mount space. It doesn't matter at this point, right? Like, Bucky holding the closed angle, so even if you still try to strong hand your way into this A site. Oh, no.
Dude, Fisher aren't afraid to just be cheeky. You know? Okay. Good stealth drone there. But even just, like, the good news is you avoided dying to a Bucky. Like, that's a tough, like, pro for a round of Valorant. Conferred to all these cons. I mean, Menace. Holding that line admirably. It's not a tough shot, but he nails it still.
I mean, I gotta say hats off to Cam Lord as well, recognizing the drone was really quickly proc, so they were in that close space. So denying them any additional information like that, the operators on the A site. But Moeda tried to take the 1v1 challenge against the Cypher, who may have just given a win con to Cumberland for this round.
All the way to C.
The B side or the C avenue here. Yeah, they're trying to chase you though. Javi's trying to be fast yet again. Like Tens, the paranoia chase. This time they're not going to find their prey just yet.
But look at this read from Fisher. They've done this so well. They know that Morg is going to be playing in their spawn, so they've already made all the way into Mound. Morg is completely caught out of position. Already Dorado has fallen, and the spike can start the defuse. The only benefit. Menace low. He's spotted. I gotta hit the spam, but it's so difficult. Javi holding the perfect angle. And Morg had a chance, but it was a slim one, and Fisher closed the door in his face.
And I really liked that call from Fisher as well, right? You had all this B space, and instead of fighting through C-Link, Waterfall, CT, you take the trio through Mound, because then you don't have to worry about the danger of where is the Cypher, what angle are they holding, right?
Yeah.
And that just forces them to get proactive and have to now fight back into the site that you've already taken over with the numbers that you had. And so, I mean, Fisher at this point, right? Like, look at the economy. Save for Cumberland. You have these ults, maybe if you want to try and use them to fend off a map point, but at this rate, you're kind of playing for overtime, it feels like.
I mean, it's a big ask from any team. And already here, Fisher with 3 on the site. Bad in the perfect spot again. Cumberland have been trying their hardest to dip and dive around Bad, and they just can't seem to stay away from him. A full swing out. The wind completely at their backs. Fisher sailing all the way to a map 1 victory. Javi, you okay there, bud? He's just trying to avoid the headshot. No, he's going for the knife. He gets it. No, they all set him up. Not the knife.
Oh my god, 3rd time's the charm, right? We had 1 attempt from Menace, 2 from Javi, and if there's any time to take a timeout, it's when you need 7 in a row for OT. It's when one of your players just got knifed in a flawless round for Fisher Tea Party, right? Like, they read you like a book, they fought for the mountain control at the right time. It just, like, at this point it feels like Fisher Tea Party, like, even the RNG is favoring them, right? Like, look at the first half, right? And how, like, oh, Cumberland set up for that kind of C-trap, and somehow Fisher waltzed towards the A side instead, and oh, it's gotta be brutal. So I mean ults, yeah, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's hard to, I like this time, even though it's 1 round, you could wipe the map, say, hey, whatever, we'll lose this, whatever, go next, right? But I actually really like this timeout because you gotta take a minute. You gotta take a minute when the enemy team is having this much fun playing against you. You just have to take a minute and breathe, because it can be really easy for that worm to dig its way into your head. Jay Chronic gives his players that minute to breathe, even if they don't come all the way back, force OT. Putting up a serious effort in these last few rounds of Lotus, however long those last few rounds may be, is important for the series as a whole.
Oh, for sure. Like, having this be a 13-5 versus, like, a 13-8 gives you confidence heading into your map pick. And we talked about how, like, yes, this is Fisher's pick, but it's also been a Cumberland kind of namesake for this NECC season so far. Playing it twice, 1 win, 1 loss. But this is something else you brought out of the timeout, right? The working at Cypher up, and it finds 1, but the duelist duo trades out their counterpart, pops the dimensional drift to try and re-clear all this space and confirm this is a C exec, which to say was successful at first, but challenging into your own thorns, and just like that, it's down to the 1v3 for John.
I mean, yeah, you can't save the Rolling Thunder for next map, so might as well throw it in there. Try and get 1 more. He's trying to chase him down, but the op, stops him in his tracks.
Wow.
What a map from Fisher. I mean, they just seemed like they could do no wrong, Shobi.
And we were like questioning, okay, this is their 4th comp on Lotus. Do they know what they're doing? But they looked so practiced with it. And honestly, like, I don't think they needed the breach with how aggressive and how frag heavy Bad was.
Truly.
And I can see why they had the Gecko, right? It kind of gave them, like, the peace of mind right in the post-plant to then continue fighting, right? They didn't have to worry about taking a player out of the fight to go for the plant. Just take the space with your double duelist, send the wingman in, and you're good to go for the first half. And 8-4, again, is a difficult comeback from even on an attack-sided map like Lotus, and you had to win a pistol, and that also, unfortunately, slipped away. So Fisher Tea Party up 1-0 in the series, possible.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, just going back to that Gecko really quick, it's also a little bit more dynamic than the Breach when it comes to how you fight. Like, Breach is very much for like, oh, here's our big execute, and here's our big retake. Oh, we're gonna fight 5v5 team fights all the time. Whereas the Gecko is a little bit more skirmishy, right? You throw some util here, some util there. You work your way around. You're always at Bad's back. 400 EC. He dropped 30 and 18.
Yeah, I just noticed that.
Holy moly.
It's not 30 and 18. I think it's 30 and 8, right? Like
Well, no, 30 in 18 rounds. Sorry, I should have. I can hear it now.
All of it's impressive. All of it's impressive.
Yeah.
That's what our takeaway there is. And I mean, like at this point, like. I think, like, I don't even want to say it's like, okay, what did Cumberland do wrong? Like, maybe adjusting a little bit slower on the attacks when you finally made that adjustment. Fisher was ready to make a change was the takeaway. But again, like, none of your win con players were kind of hitting in that map. It's hard when you're off to a rough start like that.
Sometimes somebody just goes nasty. You know, so sometimes somebody on the other team decides to show up and not lose a gunfight. I can hardly remember a round where Bad wasn't getting 2 picks. And apparently, mathematically, there weren't many of them. So, I mean, just a nasty round, a nasty map from Fisher Tea Party, already well on their way to showing us that, yes, they had an 0-2 start to the season, but it was a little bit of a false flag there, a little bit of a misnomer for them. They are a scary team.
Well, up next, we have Cumberland's map pick of Haven, a map we have not seen from Fisher Tea Party, but one where I could see another double duelist, another Yoru coming to rear his head, but we'll have to wait, keep you in anticipation as we jump to a quick break, so make sure to stick around, and when we come back, week 4 of NECC action will continue.
Welcome back, one and all. Fisher taking care of business on map number 1. Not really wasting any time. They go C, they like C, and it worked.
Which is scary, because Haven's another seaside simulator map, is it not?
Oh man, they're gonna... Could you imagine they do the same thing? They run it down C for the first 7 rounds and then pivot?
I mean, what side are they starting on? Can we take a look back at maps by chance? I don't even know.
That's a great question.
They swap sides, so
Fisher
they cannot.
on defense. They could gamble C. Well, no.
Ooh, I mean, they can fight down
probably
C long still if they want to. I mean, I think a Yoru is really good for that personally. You send your gate crash out, you TP flash in, right? If they even pick the Yoru, because we don't know with Fisher, right? What
we have
comp
no
they're
idea.
Be running. This is Cumberland's pick. Cumberland's the one that played it. And well, tell me a little bit more about the Cumberland comp coming into this.
Well, at least all the way back in week 1, Cumberland were playing what's mostly settled into kind of like the current norm, other than their duelists. They have Cypher Breach, Tejo, Omen, all of that pretty normal for Haven at this point. But they had the Neon on their duelist role, which I think actually for Haven, I think there's a world where if your Neon and your Tejo are perfectly in sync, I think it can work really well, because there's just no way to stop it. You know, you flush people out of their corners with the, guided salvo, and then, oh, you're running away? Great. I'm going to sprint on you and tackle you from behind.
And then I raised the question. I was like, but was Neon nerfed in week 1 of NECC? And we couldn't quite pinpoint the exact patch dates calendar in the 4-minute break we had. So there's a chance that that was pre-nerf as well, and they didn't want to change it. And another thing to point out as well for me personally, Tejo, Lotus, Fracture, great. Tejo, Haven, I'm still not sold on. Even after casting it yesterday, right, with Mamiji for, Fisher Navy playing in the CEC East qualifier, I wasn't convinced. So with Cumberland Phoenix, they're running it here again. Maybe we're going to have another example of it, but the spices coming from Fisher. Tea party again, possible.
They've never seen a composition. That's it. They've never seen a composition. Like they run whatever they want.
Bro, what do you mean? Yeah.
They run whatever they want and they make it look good. I mean, technically this is a comp. It's just a double duelist comp, right? Like they have smokes and an initiator and a sentinel, and like they got them all. Like they got them going. But what is this, man? What is it? I guarantee you Bad has pulled this as an audible because he was just like, man, I just dropped 30. Like, just put me on the ISO. I'll just keep fighting them.
I'm more interested in the role changes as well. Did you notice Muedo on controller, Javi on the deadlock, right? Like, yeah. I feel like Javi was aggressive on the Omen last map. Put them on a clove, they would have succeeded. I guess maybe they didn't know the deadlock. We talked about how Bad was a deadlock player, but talk about pacing. Cumberland on the attack first, wanting to turn up the heat here a little bit, deny any aggression that would have been from a peek off the recon. And it works out successfully.
And quite literally, for Fisher, the only person that has like a consistent role and never swaps is Menace. And that's not even a consistent role. That's just Raze. His role is Raze. He plays it on every single map they play, other than one where he plays Astra. Javi already with the early contact. Love that wall too. And he hears him coming through garage. Yeah, just gonna get the heck out of dodge. I think that's a great call. Ooh, swings back out. Beautiful use of the net. Oh my word, Javi. That was nasty. Morg eventually able to put it down, but a great swing by Bad to trade. And he's good for another. Gets the shield back. Goes for more. Can't quite find it, but gets a lot of damage out of Dorado with 13 HP. I mean, huh?
You don't spike this. They're just going for a reposition. Maybe the mind games here.
Man, I wish he had more time to just like loop the whole map, but gotta go through garage.
They still might get the timing. No, Menace. You only have one bullet. You
just got one bullet.
There's no reloading. No, that's
okay, he's up. Oh, he had to switch to another gun. Oh no, Dorado was playing a mini game there. He had to go on a fetch quest.
Was it because of the deadlock wall long that they didn't have any bullets?
Oh my, I think it might have been.
That's even funnier, Loki. And I was like questioning the decision as well for Javi to swing like the vice wall long. Like I think they wanted more for info, but then they got like more than they bargained for with a full-on commitment fight and fall. But okay, everything's under control, right? Your duelist fragged out 2 apiece. You got your pistol, and Cumberland, Nico might as well bum rush the B site while Fisher is gonna bum rush A long. There's not even a sensor here. So they might even just run into the Deadlock utility garage. It's sparse and in between, to say the least.
Oh.
No.
But Cumberland do have an inkling.
Oh no.
They're looking this way. They've got the timing. That's already 1 down. Menace flying in though. Yeah, and Kyoto, unfortunately, those shields are so annoying when you have a pistol. Yeah. That's not letting him get away with anything. Nice round from Fisher.
You talked about an inkling from Cumberland? I don't think they had a clue. Low-key, I'm not gonna lie to you.
3 of them all turned around to look that way. It looked like they had some idea.
It felt like I don't know, like they looked surprised, to be honest, though, when they took those fights, right? Like, I don't know, we can ask them later maybe, but like it looked like they were just trying to reposition maybe after taking that mid space, like realizing, okay, maybe they took deep A, like maybe they took like space, like I feel like they were just trying to rebound and go for a more stark exec, but who knows? And at this point, heavy rifles for Cumberland. This outlaw, a scary prospect for Fisher. Again, like it's just they're 4 stacking A, putting like Deadlock on C, Deadlock utility on B, and this feels like a retake comp and a gamble towards A, and it's working. Like look at the deep deposit. Now they're gonna pressure through probably as soon as combat hits.
Oh, and the outlaw is so good in these bonus rounds. Bad already. He gets morgue too, and he's not even sweating about it. Javi good for 1. Eventually the seaside is there, but Menace long range with the Bucky, and suddenly Gerado's all alone, just wondering, guys, what happened? Where did you all go?
Yeah, I think
Where did it all fall apart?
Mid to C when you have better rifles is a little bit questionable. I think
agreed.
what I need to see is a quicker response when we saw like over on Lotus, right? The adjustment. Like I really want them to have like alert player out towards A, recognize, okay, they're consistently taking deep A main space. And this is insult to injury. You used it from the shadows. They realized exactly what your game was and have tracked you down before you even get the spike plant secured.
Oh, and Dorado doesn't know they've both gone heaven
30
either.
seconds left.
So they know where Dorado is. Dorado's used the ult, so can't teleport C, and is just completely stuck. Easiest pick for Menace in the world. And honestly, Cumberland, I'm going to be honest, these first couple of rounds where they've really poked and prodded toward the middle of the map feel a little timid to me.
Yeah.
It feels like they don't want to fight C. They don't want to fight A. Finally, now they're pivoting, but it's because they're down on an eco. They've got nothing to lose here.
I mean, at this point, I'm like, okay, it's an eco. You're just trying to, you know, take some fights early. I wonder if this is, again, that adjustment I asked for as well. Like, if you recognize there's a heavy stack towards A, you want to fight in numbers, then fight them head on. But I am concerned just the sheer weaponry, and again, fragability from Fisher right now might demolish them. Or, Ace locks in.
Nice shot. First of many you'll need. Bad not letting you get any more. The shield. Doing a good bit of work there against the pistols once again. Moira's still just hiding in sewer until the perfect time. The smoke drops, I believe. Yeah, and not much you're going to be able to do with a Bucky there. I mean, again, it's another bloody round, but how much is that worth to Cumberland at this point?
Yeah, I mean, not enough, clearly. Not even a coach taking a timeout here. It's one of the players, Kyoto, saying they need a breather, saying they need to fix something again. If you lose this rifle round, right, like, you're looking at, like, 6-0, likely. Like, they want to secure this round if they have even a chance at a map win. They want a chance at a map 3. They feel like, well, at least for a good half.
Even in a vacuum, it's important to win this round, right? You just want a good half. But especially considering that Cumberland, I mean, haven't really put a dent in Fisher since, like, what, round 5 of Lotus?
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be able to find something here. This is probably the most important round that Cumberland will play today.
And what scares me is Fisher, you got your showstopper. I'm expecting, you know, we just saw a 3-piece from, you know, Camlord. They probably are also you know, 1 or 2 off from Hunter's Fury. So I think that whatever Cumberland is cooking up here, Fisher's probably talking about, okay, let's take our deep A main space, let's get an orb, funnel it to the right player. And if they head towards Seaside, for example, which I think should be the answer for me personally out of Cumberland's timeout, like, yes, we're omniscient. Yes, we see, like, oh, they're heavy stacking 4A, right? Like, you go towards C long where it's only the deadlock wall, and you should be set. But this is exactly what we're looking at, Fisher.
Well, and the issue is Cumberland are just, like, they're looking everywhere on the map now, but it's the 5th round. It's too late to get this info. I think Case is done for.
Look at this, like, yeah, Fisher gets to make the jump change out of the timeout.
Whoa! Okay. Shows what I know.
Game Labs, what do you mean?
No, I mean, it wasn't Case that was done for. It was very much the other way around. Nicely done, Case. I mean, catching him off guard.
Cam Lord dealt with a flawless round for Cumberland out of the timeout. I think that was just... like, it was just like read upon read, right? Like, Cumberland makes the shot and they're like, wait a minute, Fisher's gonna make a change of a timeout as well. They've been fighting out A. I feel like a good counter for any kind of pivot out of a timeout is to fight down grass towards mid. Take that deep space, disrupt any site execs, and Case just challenges it head on and wins. So that's how Cumberland got on the board, which I feel like it's better if it's like a team ace, but like still individual prowess, get the blood pumping, works as well.
You can hype your boy up. Look, they want Case to run it back. They want him to do it again. It's like, hey, it worked. Try it some more. See if they challenge once more. See if they try and peek their heads out.
Doesn't seem to be the case.
At least it's a breath. I mean, it's not. Look, the air is not comfortably sitting in their lungs. They need a few more of those, but one breath is where it starts. They're just running it to be. You gotta clear from Moida here, and you don't. Already good for 1. Kyoto shuts it down before it gets too ridiculous. There's that Hunter's Fury you were worried about. It actually doesn't seem to get the tags. The pivot to C has worked very well for Cumberland. They're up a player. All they have to do is worry about these players rushing C long. The duelists, Bad and Menace. Actually, in a little bit of trouble. Okay, good for 1. And yeah, you just can't peek this guy. Here comes the Showstopper 2 flying on in. Spots the Omen. Can't TP away from that one. Already good for that. And the backside's cleared out too. Oh, so quickly do things fall apart.
Yeah, that just felt like perfect timing for Fisher there, right? Like the flank, the wall breaks, they're good to go. And I really liked Cam Lord's pacing as well, right? Like the standard response when you see 2 to flank is take deeper CT space. So what are they doing? They're really deep spawn after their Hunter's Fury. They're re-clearing that space with their drone, if you noticed on the minimap, so that they can then fight into it late and confirm, okay, your players are either on site or in garage, don't worry about me. And then there's just the cherry on top, the final kill as well. So 5-1, they treat that timeout win from Cumberland like a blip on the radar and leverage their ults into a round victory. And speaking of ults, this is going to be a bloody affair. A 4's up from Cumberland. Rolling Thunder, Blade Storm. Let's see what happens when they clash 4v4 on the A site.
Oh, and Bad's ready. That ult in tow. Grabs Dorado. Say your prayers. Yep, you're meeting your maker, buddy. Nobody getting out of that one. Not against Bad. And that's enough to slow your roll. I mean, that's your smoke's gone. Waita does poke out a little bit too aggressively, though, and Bad running as well. Cam Lord has to know that Case is here, spots the rifle and everything. That's the spike, too. Kyoto, that same corner was calm to KM Lord. Armageddon, not nearly enough. And the amount of time that's passed, the flank in, I mean, from Javi, surely you know this is where Moida's coming from. And he does.
Wow. I mean, Fisher at Tea Party felt like they overstepped, right? They made the mistake, right? Starting with Moida, and then the rest of the team just, you know, takes their ones and wins them. It also felt like maybe there was a bit of slow communication on Cumberland's side, right? Like, as soon as Case dies, you need to be calming that Cam Lord's pushing long, and I don't think that Kyoto should have been still staring down short in that kind of situation. I mean, maybe you were, like, gambling the timing from Menace as well, but don't know what the comms sound like, and you're looking at your 6-1 here. I mean, you're forcing up again. You still have those ults at a bare minimum, right? You didn't get in a position to utilize them. But what do you do now?
I mean, that's an old school play right there, Case. A little bit ambitious, thinking that one might catch him off guard. And Fisher have already, like you talked about, they've already made the read. They've already made the adaptation. They're not bothering with tons of players going this direction. Instead, Cam Lord's just going to go for the fight sewers. Doesn't quite take it. So it will have to be a retake here. Neural Theft gives good information. Menace trying to swing to stop any control of the site from Cumberland, give his team a chance for a flood retake. But now I'm not sure they have a chance for any retake. Maybe with Bad finding one through the smoke, that does help.
Yeah, they got Deadlock ult. They got Not Dead Yet. There's definitely resources, especially when you look at Cumberland's economy. You know there's light shields. You know there's like not full buys here. And here come both in conjunction, and that's what's gonna demolish this. Make it a 1v2. You're dismissing away the trade from the double tap. Should have come through, but still stunned. It doesn't. And John off the exec of their Rolling Thunder, I should say, delay, fails Cumberland out. Wow.
John able to be the wall that Cumberland stabilizes themselves on. The Rolling Thunder, I mean, a lot of ults is great, but when you don't have a good way onto the site, when your duelist that makes the space, Menace, is down, I mean, it's just so hard to siege anywhere against a Rolling Thunder. Really beautiful ult from John, and he's got the gunplay to match with it afterwards.
Yeah, that was an insane round, showing how, again, these can be close affairs despite the scoreline. Speed, though, again, I feel like Cumberland's definitely adjusting a lot better to what Fisher's doing on this map, right? You're recognizing, okay, A main pressure, you know how to challenge it or circumvent it. And they finally are baiting out Deadlock utility here as well. So Streamblind CX minus maybe a player out of that contract. And it's back to a 4-4, but you did get the C site.
It has been the same swing from all three Cumberland players. It's been the exact same one. Oh, in every single ult that Bad has had. Which already 3 of them, by the way, in round 8. Okay, Case checking Menace at the door. But Menace's entourage will get them past the bouncer. Dorado needs to go crazy here. Good for 1. And KMO's actually pretty low. Only 30 HP, and he doesn't know where Morg is playing. Morg's going to have the timing here.
Ooh, and that was so interesting. I didn't think Morg needed to fight back into the site, but they win it. Nonetheless, the comp for low HP comes through. The confidence streamlined, and 6-3. Cumberland starting to close the gap. We talked about it. Another 3-side map should be attack-sided. They want to get as close to that 6-6 as they can here. And look at this. Despite the 4 rounds off Grip 1,
Yeah.
economy breaking down for Fisher. This isn't a team I foresee taking timeouts, right? You've already locked in your 6 on the defensive half. You're comfortable. You're on a double duelist comp for crying out loud. But still, it's showing that there's a chance for that comeback. That 3 rounds needed for Cumberland here.
Hunter's Fury. Really ambitious here from Camlord. I think that's the first misread, like full misread Fisher has had. Not that it matters when you're hitting your shots. Beautiful dart too. Uh-oh. This was a low eco round too. I mean, a light buy really from Cumberland, but
Oh, it's still a buy.
the second they get an opening.
No, that is rough. Talked about momentum and how they finally were about to shatter the economy for sure Tea Party, but when they win a half buy like this, ooh.
And I'm going to say it's just a whiff of a play from Cumberland. How are you going on to B site and your jet has to watch one direction and the other direction's not smoked? If your jet's looking C-Link, why is A-Link not smoked off? Why is that smoke so delayed?
Timing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was coming in eventually, but eventually is far too late. Case is done for. As soon as Case falls, you can't go B. Not if you're losing your entry. With no trade, I should say. But
I feel like Fisher, like, he's just not giving them any breathing room, and I think that's why they're
Very
making
true.
these mistakes and timings. Like, they aren't given the opportunity to have these cycles within the round. And this is no exception. Look, your Razor's just walking up A uncontested. And I feel like that's something I wanted to see was just find a way to contest. And now you mentioned your hero, they failed at a B exit. So what do? They faked the B exit. They bait them in. But speaking of bait, the Eco 3-piece. Hobby eating one after another. Teams up with their cycle who's long. No. What?
I mean, look, Gerado's giving it a good try. The good old college try, quite literally. what a deranged play. Having Gerado TP in, tap spike, TP out. I mean, I love the gumption
Yeah, I mean,
from
I've seen that a
Cumberland.
lot,
It's fun,
actually.
it's tricky, it's creative, and when you feel like a series is getting out of hand, you gotta try anything. So it was very fun.
No, yeah, I feel like we've seen that even more commonly in the new meta, right? With so much utility, right, for both of these teams to just flush out a plant. You get like the guided, obviously this is a different, like the guided salvos, the paint shell or the shock darts out, like that's huge. And it's an eco as well, so you expect them to go B, and so if they make the pivot to C, maybe we're gonna catch Javi off guard, but Javi was just prepared. takes the duel outright, wins 3, and your chances at the thrifty are dash. It's an 8th for Fisher. And
Ooh.
finally, this is what I wanted to see. A punishment of the A main space onto Fisher. And Cumberland did it.
That's very nicely faked over towards C. They put some util pressure on C and through mid in garage, making a lot of noise. Okay, Morg, don't swing the same way. Nice! Okay, there's a chance now. There we go.
Yeah.
Never let it be said that Cumberland players will lose the exact same fight 4 times in a row. Morg's actually on a heater now for this too. That's already 3 for him. And Cumberland, in the rounds they've been winning on their attack, they've been very one-sided in Cumberland's favor.
No, for sure. It's like, again, when it's more Fisher make mistakes getting to aggro and it's getting punished, and that's really clean here. And you talked about Morg, them coming online here would be huge. I mean, it's last 10.5, might as well get the from the shadows. Scare tactics, make you see your nightmares, but no.
Please don't.
There's no ace clutch possibility. Look at the time, right?
I mean,
right?
the annihilation last round, but surely the aftershock just stalls this out. You're sprinting out, and yeah, Case is there. The gun was being pulled out. I was a little bit nervous, but Javi was pulling his own gun out too. So Cumberland, it's still pretty clean. 3 alive, nothing to scoff at. And again, that 8-4 scoreline. Again, that winnable asterisk must-win pistol round, or well, really need to win pistol round.
And I'm so glad that we finally got to see Morg come alive as well, because I literally said it like in the pre-show while doing our research, Paul. I was like, this is your player to keep an eye on. Like, when we see dominance from Cumberland, when we saw these close series wins, it was because they were your top frag in the lobby. Like, to put it nicely, like, they were finding impact for their team early on. And speaking of early impact, 4 players, they're taking the Fisher approach of a death ball, 2 pairs over towards A long. Trust in your Cypher to anchor C. And I mean, look at this. Fisher feels like they've like studied up and have identified B garage as a weakness when you don't have full utility here, and they're gonna go plant for free, literally. Like, look at that. That looked like they just read it.
I think Menace is Menace is just committed here. Menace is the spike. He's a little turret, a shotgun turret on the spike. He was never gonna do anything but sit right there. Good read, a nice shot. Javi already good for 1, and here comes the rest, hiding in spawn. That's cheeky. And now, I mean, Morg, sure, you've been heating up our player to watch for Cumberland, but just gets one in the ear.
Wow. And I mean, that was just... I mean, I don't even want to say it was doing your homework, but that's what it felt like, right? Plausible, like, they identified the one weak point weakness of the pistol strat for Cumberland. And we talked about kind of how on Lotus they've been repetitive, right? Like, in terms of pulling up the same pistol strats. So there's a chance that Fisher just realized that was going to happen.
And even if you don't, because I don't know if we've seen Cumberland like live, like Cumberland played Haven. I don't know if we've seen it. That just works against anyone. Who hard defends B on a pistol round, right? Nobody.
Grass. I've seen that.
Yeah, you might play grass, but Menace will always get right here every time against pistols. There is no chance Menace doesn't make it all the way. And if you're holding shotguns, that's good enough. Now that does get traded over to Kyoto. A potentially very diffusable spike, but as the smokes drop, that becomes less the case.
Wow, I mean, Fisher definitely ran the risk, right? I feel like B, again, most retakeable sites when you're down weapons, and when you have as much, I feel like, corral utility as Cumberland has with a Taiko and a Breach, and even a Paranoia. But again, just the speed in which they did it, the deadlock wall security, which everyone talked about how strong that is from a post-plant perspective, it was hard to break through. So, I mean, I don't even want to call this a bonus. You have an Odin for crying out loud.
Oh, it's disgusting. And they're gonna send it C. How could you not? C simulator, let's go. We're back on Lotus, baby.
Let's see what happens.
Oh, and Morg doesn't have any idea. Now he does. Get the heck out of Dodge, Morg. Run. Head for the hills. Oh, and he's gonna get pinged. Does he get swung? No. Menace was the one planting. Again, actually. We're probably pretty close to that showstopper at this point.
Oh, Case, though. But hold their own. They're doing really well on this retake. Smoke is up. Double tap is gone for the time being. Even while Paranoia, they're just trying to play their aim labs. And unfortunately, Cumberland talked about again how clean the rounds they win are. They have 4 players survive. Deny what was a hefty, I think I want to call that a half buy-up. I think they didn't fully bonus right from Fisher. And that's going to punish, I think, maybe them getting a little bit too eager to close out this map after reaching double digits. I mean, look at the buy now, right?
Yeah.
Like,
they're gonna, I mean, they'll have enough here just because they've also, yeah, Menace has just been buying a Bucky every round. This is essentially a full buy. 2 Odins again, dude. Fisher, you can't do this. They're just sending it C again. They're just gonna swing harder and try to catch Morg setting up, I think. But Morg has pivoted the setup a little bit and is gonna play completely off-site. I love this read from Morg.
And I wonder if they're just gonna like fight into CT. They're like, guys, we're not planting, we're W-king into CT space. Now do you go for the split, try and get your Cypher off guard, but nah, here we go. Bucky again. Trap wire again. I like the nade. This time's to prevent the reflood. And the death target.
Nicely done. Matt picking up a refresh on his shield too, and it'll come back to a favorable C site. Wade has been going to work. That Odin putting in the hours.
Wow. I mean, at this point, Kyoto 1v3. Make sure the spike gets planted. Try to take your ones. You're not gonna win your one. Second Odin covered the hand back off to your team. No, you're not gonna keep it for your teammate. You're going skin shopping instead. Okay. That just shows.
Look, that's Riot Gun Buddy.
Like,
Riot Gun Buddy, you gotta get it.
Okay,
right,
this time though, Cumberland.
Yeah.
Right? The last time they took it when it was, right, the overtime comeback. Like, you had to win your 7 in a row. This is the round before. I think part of it's maybe the economy difference. Like, we might be able to see a buy out of Cumberland here. Maybe some longevity. But there's no ults to work with. There's not really much to plan around in terms of a strategy, it feels like, for this round. So what do you think Cumberland's talking about? Because, I mean, they went from a near flawless round to then, like, a really, like, difficult C retake, right?
Mm-hmm. Honestly, look, I don't know if this is what Jay Chronic is saying, but I think you just have to try something at this point. Especially considering we're going into the first, like, real, what's probably, like, guns-ish versus guns-ish. The fact that Cumberland's running out of time, it really doesn't matter what their money looks like. They have to keep buying. They don't have time. Like, we saw how well, you know, trying to play for 7 in a row worked on Lotus. So you got to try and make this round happen. And if you're going to do that, I think, honestly, we haven't seen Cumberland fight A yet. We haven't seen Fisher try and fight A. But they're pivoting the other direction. They're putting Morg on A. That's going to be the weak side of the map. And instead, Cumberland, yeah, I think they're going to fight out B. Or no, are they waiting for... They think Menace is going to fly in, so they're waiting to try and trap Menace on B.
It feels, again, the tunnel vision-esque what we saw over on Lotus, right? When they finally made the adjustment, it was for that C trap, and then Fisher never went C, right? So you talked about how they haven't challenged A. Well, guess what? Fisher finally challenges A. It's a mirror repeat of a low Lotus adjustment, but this time, your Cypher's gonna hold on, live by the side, die by the side, play off these kill trips, play off the cages, and they also have Case at their side. Wow.
Well, and I think Fisher, once again, their hubris bites them in the rears just a little bit. Did they have 3 Odins coming into this round? Is that what I saw? There's one on the ground.
Two,
I think there was a.
site, right?
I think there was one site. Yeah, I think there was 3 Odins coming into this round.
Oh my
You're not gonna get away with that. I'm glad you guys are having fun, but come on.
Oh my god. Like, get your 12th first, then have fun. Because this is your questions, right? Now Cumberland has to go with the Ares. Now Menace can't buy. I mean, Menace can't even afford a Bucky, right? He's gonna have to spot them on that. Or you're kamikazing in. Yeah, look, they got spotted on the Bucky for crying out loud. Right. But the other thing to point out, too, is, like, maybe they're gonna kamikaze in off the showstopper. This is something I do like from Fisher. When a strat fails, they run it back. They're challenging A again. They've learned their lesson, and usually I want to look at their second attempt conversion rate because I feel like it's hecka high.
Here comes Menace. Stopped though. Showstopper whiffs. Beautiful trap wire. Got only good for 1, unfortunately. In Case not able to get onto the site to assist. Morg is trying to dig himself in, but he's stuck. He's got nowhere to play. And Fisher, like you said, if it doesn't work once. Just give it another go.
Oh, Cumberland saves the Ares. It's fine. But yeah, no, again, I mean, the difference there, obviously, a showstopper helps, right? Like, even if, even if you get killed by the kill trip, right, it's kind of scared. Morg or Hot Dog 63 into a corner, so they couldn't play off the trips as effectively. Gerardo had to, and that's when the players kind of closed in as well. I think this site deadlock wall is an interesting touch. We'll have to talk about later, but for now, ended off with a C. Look at this too.
Yeah.
The wrong side of the map. Gerardo alone, but an opening kill.
Love that. Love that. The death contract will pull him in. He takes a note out of Morg's book, but can't quite win the fight this time. And now the C site is completely, well, not so completely, actually. This one where we get a flood retake. The wall trying its best to stop that. Gun's not great either for Cumberland, but Kyoto's putting that sheriff in. And he gets himself a beautiful little upgrade and a 3-piece to follow it.
Yeah, I mean, that was just kind of dominoes, one swinging after each other, trying to get the trades there. And that's something else that Cumberland's been really, really good at. And I think the one round we saw it get stopped was from a pink shell from Menace, is that flood back into the C site, right? Cumberland good on the proactive retakes. Maybe why they were confident in Gerardo anchoring while the rest stacked on the A site when it was an off buy. And I mean, like, yes, Gerardo kind of got, you know, a little off-put by the death contract. It just made you kind of had to speed up the rotate because you're basically confirmed, right? You saw both duelists, they invested ults, like, that's your checklist good to go. And now, I mean, feels like it's going to be CACA until we see OT or a game conclusion. And the Eco, the Odin, this should be an easy side hold for Morg.
I mean, surely. Oh, not quite good for another. He gets grabbed by the webs. John trying to bail him out, but just can't get up in time. And a little bit of an overcommitment as well. Is this how the cookie crumbles? Gerardo, yeah, they know where he is. And Javi will get it done. Nicely done by Fisher. Not quite as clean as map number 1, but they don't let things go too awry. I think it's worth noting the signs of life we were getting from Cumberland in those later rounds. I loved the things that they were trying. I loved punishing the aggressive flying in from Menace over and over again, whether it was Gerardo on an off angle or Morg with an Odin, but it was just too big of a deficit. It's hard to win a series if you're going to lose 4 pistols, and it's even harder against a team like Fisher Tea Party.
Bro, can I say that Fisher Tea Party just felt like Rankers Light in that series? Like, that's what they felt like. Like, the mechanics, the micro, like, the coordination was clean, right? The comps were a little crazy, but that's also what Rankers does, is lean into what they're used to doing on an individual level, right? If they don't get to scrim as often, like, it was scrappy in the best way, is I think how we phrase it. And it was a very deserved, I think, 2-0 win with how, again, it just felt like they had an indomitable will, right? Like, if the strat failed, they tried it again and it worked, and otherwise they tried something else and it usually worked.
And an even higher kill count and higher ACS for bad this time around. Dude, you've got to be kidding me. 400 wasn't enough. Gotta bump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers.
And I mean, it's like, okay, yeah, I mean, if you give me more rounds, I'll give you more kills, more ACS. And I mean, I already knew Bad was kind of a solid fragger. Like I mentioned again, they were kind of your Menace side by side. Like, you didn't want to put them in a standard role like an initiator, like a flash initiator. And again, it's playing to the strengths of your team, even if it is an off-meta composition. It works for this team. I'm always concerned for longevity. Like, I'm not going to call it like, oh, that's a life series for Bad, because I'm sure they can put those numbers again. But again, then you have to plan for what happens if Bad isn't hitting their shots. And I'm curious to see how that's going to go moving forward in NECC Group B for Division 1, and if they even get to go to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just parsing through ACS from previous maps played in NECC this semester, like, there's a couple oddballs here where he didn't have such a great map, but for the most part, it's like 290, 290, 280, 290. Exactly. So yes, is the double 400 plus ACS absolutely absurd? Yeah, but it's not out of his wheelhouse. I think he could do it again.
Well, we'll have to wait and see when Valorant action returns next week. But that's not all of the collegiate NECC action that you guys can witness here. We got, first off, League of Legends tomorrow. We got CS2 on Wednesday, Rocket League on Thursday, and Overwatch on Friday. So literally whatever is your jam FPS game or not, NECC is delivering up the collegiate action. So make sure to stop by. But plausible, that brings our coverage tonight to an end. It was a blast. You said it. You like quick 2-0s that are close, right? And I feel like that like checked all the marks for you, right?
I mean, you know, I look, I appreciate the extra time. I'm always down for a banger of a series, though. I mean, come on. Last week was a really fun series. This week, I still had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe not as close as we've seen in the past, but so be how the things work sometimes. And Fisher, they wanted a quick series even more than I did, apparently.
Yeah, we got homework to do. We're college students. And with
Fair
that,
enough.
we are going to say goodnight for the evening. Again, make sure to tune back into NECC this week for more action and have a great night.